started to trot, and it was fine. And then the other horses around her started to trot too. And of course no one was riding them, so they just got faster and faster. And the flicker started cantering, and I tried to stop her and I couldn't because she was going really fast. My arms were too weak to stop her. And she went faster and faster and faster until all the horses were galloping. She was galloping too. And then she must have been really excited because she bucked. And of course her head went down and her back legs came up, and little Alex sitting on top flew off, and I fell to this side, to the right, and my feet came out of the stirrups and came off in a tumble bit, and then I was lying on the grass and I couldn't move because my back really hurt, and I lay there for a really long time. I don't remember how long. And I could see Flicker, she came back and she was like eating grass around me, and I remember feeling really mad at her.
Third grade, I went up into a tree, and I remember I bought a beanbag chair, and I was sitting up there for a while, and then I shifted my weight and I fell out of the tree, and it knocked the wind out of me, and I couldn't breathe for like 5 to 10 seconds or something. And I chipped a tooth, and they thought I almost had a concussion. And
one time in junior high,
so that was bad.
There were 2 bleachers set up, slightly oblique to each other.
Yeah, I was not the brightest kid.
And just walking between them and stepping over the gap and slipping.
Did you succeed in sitting in the
I did. For at least like 10 to 15 minutes, I was sitting up there reading a book, but then I shifted my weight and it rolled over.
And like being suspended in the air.
Knowing it was going to happen.
The bike just suddenly stopped, and I just flew over the handlebars.
Was it fun?
It was before I fell out of the tree.
Kind of the last thing I remember
And having
is
that
this
experience
feeling of everything
time
stopped.
sort of stops.
And then time slowed down as I came off and predicting
And you
the
think,
landing.
This is about to hurt very
Imagining that
bad.
it was going to hurt.
Holy crap, I'm thousands of feet
crap.
above the air. And
This is going to hurt.
I wasn't like
I
prepared
fell
for
on the
that.
ground. The first thing I thought about was my teeth.
I think it's just one of those things that just happens so quickly that the moment of the fall doesn't even really exist.
It was like a skip in the record. It was just like there's this like momentum through space, with strong momentum through space and strong momentum through time, and then it just skipped for a moment, and then the next moment I was on the ground.
And then I was told by my parents never to put a beanbag chair in the tree again.
Skip in the record.
So the apocryphal story is that Newton was sitting under an apple tree and he got hit on the head by an apple.
Fall just like woke me up immediately.
And in that instant, he understood gravity. And actually what it was that he was really understanding was that gravity works the same on Earth as it does out in the heavens. So he used that to understand why planets orbit the sun, why the moon orbits the Earth. So what he came up with was this law of gravitation, what he calls the universal law of gravitation, meaning that it applies not just on Earth, but also out in space. And what this law says, it's a mathematical formula, and it says that there's this force, this gravitational force between any two objects in the universe. And it depends on the masses of both objects, so it depends on how big they are. And then it depends inversely, so 1 over, on the distance between them. So this force will be large if either and or both objects are massive, or if they're really close to each other. This equation also has this gravitational constant out in front, which is a really, really small number. So gravity is not a very strong force. It's actually a pretty small force. But if you have something that's very massive, like the Earth or the Sun or Jupiter, then gravity, the force of gravity will be strong. But the force of gravity between any two people on Earth is really small. The force of gravity between you and the chair that you're sitting in is really small.
So one of the first things, the first words that my students know is actually how to fall. But it is to fall. So what they do is like they kind of enjoy maybe sitting here and they have something, and then if it falls from the table they say that, which means that it fell. That.
Woke me up immediately.
And then boom, and then
Woke me up immediately.
boom, boom,
That. That.
boom,
That. That.
boom. Boom.
So what Einstein did was he completely revolutionized the way that we think of gravity, which is not, in his mind, is not this long-range force between all these pairs of objects in the entire universe. He thought of it as a much more local phenomenon. So what he postulated, which is the current paradigm, so we think this is right, and it's been tested, and it seems like so far it's right, is that what mass does, any object that has mass, what it does is it warps space right around that object. And the more massive the object is, the more it warps space. So when you have another object that comes nearby, it's trying to travel in a straight line, but it ends up going in a curved line because space itself is curved.
I was not sleeping, so I was looking at the window. It was really hot summer night. So I was looking up, and I saw again another falling star. So, oh, that's how pretty, another one.
So when you think of, for example, the moon orbiting the Earth, according to Newton, there's this force between the two that's not changing as the moon goes around the Earth.
But then, 1 second after I saw it, it continued falling, and suddenly it changed direction.
But according to Einstein, what's really happening is that the Earth itself is warping the space around it.
It's like, what? So I then realized it was not a falling star. It was, I don't know what it was until today.
And the moon is trying to travel in a straight line, and it ends up going in a curved line because space itself is curved.
In order to properly do a back dive and not do a back flop,
It's like
you
repelling.
need to
It's
just
this experience
lean
where
back.
you're like at the edge of something and you injure yourself,
Lean back.
and then you have to like back over the edge.
And keep leaning back.
Jump out
You
of
have
the
to help,
plane.
but you also have like control of how fast
And you
you
have
go.
to trust that
It's this sort of like very controlled
you
flow.
dive correctly if you just kind of let yourself go backwards.
But just that moment where you like could no longer stand on your own feet and you're like totally being supported by this thing that you are also holding on to is like a very frightening
It's a
sort
lot
of
scarier than doing a front dive, even though it's the same as
Insane sense of falling.
Cheerleader pom-poms. I think they were like my sisters.
No, I don't think that there's a thinking. I mean, it's like
Absolute helplessness.
front dive. You can see what you're doing. The back dive, you just have to commit to it.
I mean, you're so like inwardly focused on your own sense of
There's no
balance.
guidepost to like
Is
where
this
or
working?
how
Like,
far.
is there anything that I see that is breaking?
I just got the egg and I wrapped it in a bunch of like paper towels, but I just mean like a lot of paper towels.
We would go to like church camps, and they'd always have like try to incorporate outdoor activities into like
The set of an
some kind of religious
Links.
metaphor.
Dialogue with the Carmelite.
And so invariably you do the trust fall,
Which is the
which
story of
is
this nunnery during
my least
World
favorite
War
thing
II.
in the world.
The nuns were resisting.
And at one particular program I went to, the trust fall wasn't just like leaning backwards into someone. You went up onto this like 4-foot tall platform.
Giant cross, probably 30 feet tall.
And you fell
20 feet wide,
backward into a
that
group of like
was hanging
6
up
people, like who were holding arms across each other, and they would like catch you.
on the back of the stage, and they had it on wires. So
Except
cool.
I'm also like really terrified of heights, so it was falling backwards, basically like
3 rolls.
4 or 5 feet off the ground into these people I didn't really know.
Absolute helplessness of
And
moving your
it
limbs.
was so terrifying, but another layer was like,
I don't think the pom-poms were very effective.
instead of it just being like, oh, are you brave? It, like, put your faith on the line.
And then I just put it in like box after box that was like stuffed with newspaper.
Because it was like about trust and trusting the Lord and all these things. So you're peer pressured into doing this terrifying fall. And I remember doing it, and like afterwards I threw up because it was so terrifying.
But instead of going up, somebody had turned it in the wrong direction and it started going down.
And it did not
It hit the
reinforce my
stage,
sense of
loud
trust.
thud, and then it
And
kept
so
going for the
none of
end.
these are
Across the
importance.
ground.
Like it got thrown off the roof and like smashed on the ground. Like the boxes broke, and all the paper towels and the pom-poms went everywhere. But the egg survived because it was just like wrapped in so much stuff. But it looked like a mess. I mean, it hit the ground like a dramatic car crash.
Every mass, everything in the universe pulls on everything else. Matter just has an intrinsic desire to be all together. And that is the fundamental force of gravity, is that every atom in the universe pulls on every other atom.
If you're falling down, you did something, and then you're out of control until you
jump out of the plane,
hit the ground or whatever. And if you're falling asleep, you're sort of not
moving your limbs, sort of like a bug,
really in control. You know, let students like those often falling
through the air.
You're sort of angry that it's kind of not their fault. You can't really help that they're doing it. And then falling in love is the same, right? Like, I don't think it is controlled.
You have to look up and make sure that your parachute's
It like sneaks up on you.
Yeah.
It happened. Okay.
I don't know very much about philosophy of physics or whatever, but when they talk about gravity, they talk about things like the value of big G, like the gravitational constant, which is like a fundamental feature of physical reality in our universe. So in some sense, because we know like the value of G, it could have been different. It could have been 2G or 1/2 G or whatever, and then everything would look different. All the planets and stars would have developed differently.
You made these wings, and I could fly like really close to the sun.
And you're sort of flying.
Melted.
You have to look up and make sure your parachute's okay when you're sort of flying.
Big G kind of plays a role in explanation, or plays a role as like representing the end of explanation. When you explain why you need as much concrete as you do for the stadium, or why solar systems are the size they are, if you can reduce it to the value of the fundamental constants, you've reduced it as far as like the human mind can penetrate, and then you're done. And it's important, I think, for us to stop there, because if you don't, then if you try and go further than that, you start explaining more fundamental things in terms of less fundamental things, which is getting the order of explanation backwards. So it is important to stop somewhere and to stop at the right place.